I'm never going to read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Alex, and if you're new here, it's nice to meet you. If you're coming back, thank you so much for watching my videos and for supporting me. Today's video is going to be a little bit different as to what I usually put out there, and it's going to be more of a video essay type deal, and I will be reading off a lot of my notes just to make sure that I get everything that I want to in this video and out to you. I also just want to say that this is by no means a criticism of the people that love this book, and I understand that this book has touched the hearts of a lot of people, and a lot of people have resonated with it and found comfort in it. And I understand that. Everybody has their varying opinions and different reasons for loving a book. This video was more so a criticism to Yanagihara and what she says her book represents. I also want to say that this book will have trigger warnings and spoilers about the book. I will indicate any trigger warnings and spoilers that are coming up, and you will be able to skip them based on the timestamp that I indicate below. I will also provide a link to the trigger warnings for this book, as well as any articles that I may reference in this video. So, A Little Life was written in 2015 by Hanya Yanagihara, and it captured the hearts of many readers. Many YouTubers and bookstagrammers posted about it. There were many reading vlogs that were released about it, and they often depicted readers just bawling out of agony and pure devastation by the end of the video. I was curious about this book for a while because it seemed to stir some very deep emotions in the reader, and I was just curious about the story and what it may be about. And as many YouTubers and other readers have stated, there is a lot of FOMO that surrounds this book because of the powerful reaction that it draws out from the readers. However, after finding the list of trigger warnings for this book, I became a little wary about it, so I decided to do some research on it, and I watched a ton of videos, read a ton of reviews, read a lot of synopsis breakdowns to the point that I spoiled every single aspect of this book, and I kind of went through a whole rabbit hole, and it was obsessive. And I decided that this is not a book that I can read because I'm devastated just by reading the spoilers of this book. And there are lots of aspects of this book that I think about often, and this has kind of been a year in the making. And I can't imagine what reading the actual book would make me feel. So before watching any vlogs or reading any reviews, all I really knew about this book was that it was a story of these I think it's 4 middle-aged men living in New York City, and they live this life of luxury, and they're friends, and they've known each other since college, and it's just about their story. And it is about that, but it's about a lot more. And at the beginning, we are introduced to all these characters, but the character we know very little about is Jude. He has a mysterious and tortured past, and his body is riddled with all kinds of various health issues. Because of all the trauma he's been through, Jude has a really hard time opening up to the people that he's closest to, but eventually the book unfolds the story of Jude and his past and everything that happened to him, and the reader is forced to build this very powerful and strong emotional bond with a character, only to be absolutely devastated by everything that happens to him all the way till the bitter end, and this book is over 700 pages long. So the list of trigger warnings in this book is about 25 items long. The website that lists them has an option to drop down on a few of them that are specifically graphic or violent, and just kind of explains further what those trigger warnings are specifically. And I just want to say that if you somehow don't know anything about this book because you went into it not wanting to know anything about it and you haven't seen anything about it online, I just want to let you know that this book comes with a huge content warning and you should tread carefully. If it wasn't already evident by the fact that this book has over 25 trigger warnings, a lot of people see this book as trauma porn, which is like the explicit depiction of trauma of another character that is like exposed in this voyeuristic way to the reader. Again, I haven't read this book, but I have read so many synopses and I've listened to so many videos, and my sister who has read this has broken down every aspect of this story that I feel like I know it very well. But of course, like, I can't say that I'm an expert on this book because I haven't read it, so I can't like necessarily say that it's trauma porn. This is only what I have heard from other people and what I've read. Jude's life is brutal and cruel from start to finish. Every awful and traumatizing thing possible haunts this character. Every sort of evil touches him. It's endless, and worst of all, it's hopeless. This to me suggests that Yanagihara's book is manipulative. A reviewer named Dan Mendelsohn describes the book as an unending parade of aesthetically gratuitous scenes of punitive and humiliating violence. He goes on to say that it was regressive and repressive, and portrayed a world where gay people were punished for finding happiness. What is the purpose of writing a book where there is endless trauma and there is just no moment of like healing or relief for the character? Why was Yanagihara so determined to humiliate her character and degrade him in this way, almost to the point that it was no longer believable, according to many readers? It seems to me that Yanagihara wrote trauma for the sake of trauma in this book, based on what she said she wanted the story to play out and how she wanted it to be perceived. This book is meant to get a violent reaction from you as a reader, and I find that really manipulative because there is a huge difference between being moved or feeling saddened by a story versus being so upset about a story and not being able to erase graphic depictions of violence from your mind for a long, long time to come. Very many people said that they were put into a reading slump, and there are parts of this book that they think about every single day and just can't get out of their head. And I can understand that because even though I haven't read this book, I've read so much about this book and I have been thinking about it so much. Like, I just can't get it out of my mind and I'm devastated about it, and I just can't imagine what it's like to actually read this story. So it's evident that Yanagihara's book made readers feel a lot, whatever that was that they felt. And I'm all about the fact that literature is meant to draw emotion out of us and make us feel something. However, just because a book is vivid and thought-provoking, that doesn't make it good. Like I said, this book is manipulative. Yanagihara purposefully builds a strong attachment between character and reader to the point that they feel like a true friend to you, only to torture him graphically until the very end of the book. She even gives the reader like this illusion of hope or the suggestion of hope, only for it to be torn away like horribly one last time. It's a book that is meant to cause you agony. Yanagihara said herself, "I wanted there to be something too much about the violence in this book. I also wanted there to be an exaggeration of everything. I wanted everything turned up a little too high." I don't know, I think you have to be kind of sick to say something like that about your book, to like exaggerate the trauma in your book on purpose in order to like portray this violence and get a reaction out of the readers. And I guess like I'm doing what she wanted, like I'm talking about this, but like I just think there's something really reckless about this book and about what she wanted people to get out of this story and her purpose for writing this story. In the end, after everything he's been through and after being stripped away of every single good thing in his life, Jude resorts to suicide. In the same interview that I referred to before regarding Jude, Yanagihara said that she wanted to create a protagonist that never gets better. The author admitted in an interview that she never did any research regarding any of the traumatic experiences that Jude goes through in his entire life, claiming that Jude came to her fully formed and writing his sections were always the easiest. He's a very consistent character, or he's meant to be, which is arguably part of what dooms him. I have a really hard time swallowing that just because, like, Yanagihara is the author. She created these characters and she, like, is responsible for their fate. And I think it's just a really dangerous way to view suicide, to say that this is a character that never gets better, as if there are people out there that can't heal from their trauma or heal from their mental illness. And upon reading many articles, Yanagihara says that she doesn't believe in therapy. Like, she has never gone to therapy, she doesn't believe it works, and she kind of views it in the way that many people view religion, as it's just something that people find comfort in. It's not something that can actually, like, help you. And actually, the man that she dedicated this book to is a friend of hers, and he said that he has repeatedly told Yanagihara that he thinks she would benefit from therapy. To date, all of Yanagihara's books are predominantly about gay men or men that love men. When asked why she creates characters as someone that identifies as a woman, she kind of quipped that, like, authors can write about whatever they want and they're free to write stories and characters about whatever they please, which is true. Authors can write about whatever characters they want, whatever stories they want to tell. It's their story and it's theirs to tell it. However, she went on to say that she doesn't know why she writes so much about gay men, because she doesn't think that there's anything inherent about the gay male identity that interests her, which just sounds like a dishonest answer. Andrea Long-Chu states that if disease is Yanagihara's angel of death, gay men are her perfect patients in regards to the majority of the focus characters in Yanagihara's books. Her writing has been described as a touristic love for gay men. She creates an exaggeration of humiliation, physical harm, and trauma, only to take a protective and even mothering role towards her characters. So that poses the question of, why does Yanagihara depict her characters as gay men so consistently and in such a dehumanizing way? The hype for this book is astronomical. As I said, many booktubers created vlogs about this. There's a lot of FOMO about this story and wanting to know what happens and why it evokes such strong emotion from readers. In 2015, it was even shortlisted for the Booker Prize. A YouTuber, Noelle Gallagher, she made a point of saying that she's very wary of people who state that this is a must-read and that people should be careful about recommending this book, because it is not something that everyone can handle reading and everyone that can cope with, because there are so many violent and graphic depictions of Jude's trauma that it stays with people for a long time. In her Goodreads review, my sister ends it with, "Save yourself the pointless misery and don't read this book." So I'm still, like, recovering from some of the things that I learned about this book. And like I said before, I obviously haven't read this, but there are still things about the story that I do know about. And if I'm still recovering from just reading reviews and reading synopsis breakdowns, I can only imagine what reading the actual book would do to me. And there have been people that told me that I should give this a read, but I just want to say that I will never read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I have spoiled every aspect of this book and I am depleted. And this is kind of my way of releasing myself of Jude's story and letting go of it. And I hope that I can kind of move on from what I've learned about this book and what I've learned about Jude. Thank you for watching.